Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann, and today I'm doing my April wrap-up. So in April, which, yeah, I barely remember April, 2 months ago, but we're going to try this. In April, I only read 5 books. It was a pretty busy month for me, and this was the month of the 4-star reads. So all of these books were good. I enjoyed them, even great, but they were not excellent. So let's go into it. It's kind of a mix of genres. So first, I'm going to talk about some historical fiction, A Place Called Freedom by Ken Follett, where we follow two young Scottish people in the 19th century, and one of them is and now I'm forgetting all of their names, of course. Anyway, the guy, we'll just call him the guy, is a coal miner on a Scottish estate, a really oppressed group of people, a laborer, and he's starting to have some big ideas about freedom over your own life. And he's starting to sort of get above himself in terms of the estate and really pushing back against authority. And then we also have a landowner's daughter from a nearby estate, Lizzie. I remember her name. And so they kind of grew up together because class is much less meaningful to children. And then as they grew up into adolescents and young adults, they didn't spend any more time together. But she's sort of a fiery, independent woman. And so throughout the book, we start to see some tension between the two of them as they realize they have a lot in common, but their socioeconomic circumstances keep them apart. But their paths keep crossing. So early in the book, the guy is pretty much forced to leave the estate in fear of his life and well-being, and wanting to escape being a miner for the rest of his life. And so we follow him he's really the main protagonist in the book, I would say, because we really follow his action quite closely as he moves to London, becomes involved in a coal haulers strike there, and then eventually makes it to the U.S., where he actually ends up being an indentured servant on the property of Lizzie, who has also made it to the U.S. Because she married the younger son of the family that owned the estate that the guy was a coal miner on back in Scotland. And so then we hear about their lives in the U.S. as they get started on this estate together, and then as they both grapple with systems of power and oppression that are still maintained in the U.S. So I think that's as far as I'll go without spoilers. But Ken Follett is a great writer. I really enjoyed it. I listened to it on audio, and it was good on audio. So yeah, it was good. It just wasn't, excellent, but very enjoyable. Okay, then going to talk briefly about one of the Sookie Stackhouse novels, Club Dead, which is the 3rd novel in the series by Charlaine Harris. This is the book series that the TV series True Blood is based on. And in Club Dead, we're starting to see some of the relationship between Sookie and Bill is unraveling. Sookie is on another vampire adventure in another city, and all kinds of horrible stuff happens to her, and she kicks butt and is awesome. I'm not sure if I will proceed farther in the series. This was enjoyable, but the toxic stuff in Bill's and Sookie's relationship is starting to bug me. But Sookie is also becoming more independent, and so I'm still, I don't know, I might take a break for a while. Okay, and then next I read a thriller, which was State of Terror by Hillary Rodham Clinton and Louise Penny. And Louise Penny is a well-established thriller writer, but I have never read her work before. My mom got this for me, I guess for my birthday, which was in early April, because Hillary Rodham Clinton trying out a new career, I guess. And in general, I support that. And yeah, this book was good and interesting, very relevant to today. It's all about terrorist plots, international terrorism, so it was a little bit terrifying. And of course, I assume, so it's sort of a political and terrorism thriller. So the main protagonist is the Secretary of State. And I assume that some of the details about being Secretary of State are true to life and true to Clinton's experience. And so that was a little disturbing because the U.S. government, or at least some members of it, do not come off looking very well in this book, which makes sense. But is also just a little terrifying in the ways that it happened. So anyway, it was an enjoyable read. As with most of the thrillers that I've read in my life, it's not like a blow me away book or a super impactful book, but I definitely enjoyed it. And if they co-write another book in the future, I would definitely pick it up, especially for something to read on an airplane or on the beach or something like that. Okay. Then I also want to talk about Past Imperfect by Julian Fellows, which I listened to on Audible audio. And this one was interesting. So he's a middle-aged British dude who came of age in the 1950s and 60s, something like that. And so it's about, and he's from some sort of like high society family, although not one that's particularly wealthy or well known, but it's about that particular upbringing of being British, like high society, and what that meant for like the debutantes and the young men who accompanied them, basically. And so it's really interesting. I think it is probably a pretty decent look at what that was like at that time. And there's a lot about sort of the change, like the end of an era sort of language, which was really interesting, just thinking about social change in the 20th century. So yeah, it was good. It was good to listen to. It was definitely very slow paced. Again, middle-aged guy just reflecting on his adolescence. So it was it was just very introspective and slow paced. And then there were a couple things at the end where I just wish that they hadn't happened. And I don't want to do any spoilers, but it was just like some of the things that were just such a big deal to this guy. I'm just like, okay, the thing finally happened, and he's just sort of like, yeah, okay. It just wasn't, I don't know. He was just very even-keeled through all of it. And I almost feel like the story would have been interesting if some of the things that he dreamed about forever hadn't happened. I feel like he would have had more growth as a character. Okay, and then the last book that I read in April was Binti by Nnedi Okorafor, which is really more like a novella. It was quite short science fiction. And we follow a young woman on a planet. It's not Earth, but she's from a pretty insular community that doesn't really want to have much contact with the outside world and sort of the dominant cultures and the spacefaring cultures. And she is really incredibly brilliant and secretly applied to go to a university that's off-world on another planet and was accepted. And so at the beginning of the book, she is leaving to go start her time at that university. And so some of the things that I liked about it were the world building, of course, because Okorafor is just unbelievably creative. And I liked that that sort of exploration of what it meant to be someone who was bucking what's expected of you culturally, and taking a big leap into, for you, what's the unknown, and doing it because you really feel like it's the right path for you. So I really liked that. But the reason that it just fell a little flat and was only 4 stars instead of 5 stars was because we just didn't get much depth from the character, as far as I'm concerned. Like it was a good story. I mean, it's basically the story of her ship ride from her home planet to where the university is, and it was cool. Some interesting stuff happened. She's a cool character, but even with the fact that it's explicit that these heavy things are happening to her, we just get very little emotional depth to the main character. And so, as I said, that just means that it fell a bit flat. Now, there are 2 other, short books. It's a trilogy, and I've only read the first one. I do own the other 2, so I just need to get my act together and read them. I will definitely read them. So I think it's possible that what I'll end up feeling like is just wondering why they got chopped up into shorter works. I'm sort of assuming I'll end up feeling like it could have just been one novel, and I would have been more satisfied. But yeah, in the first short one, we just didn't get enough from the main character for me to feel really invested in her. So 4 stars. All right, so that's what I read in the month of April, my month of 4-star reads. So solid month, good month, but I think I had some 5-star reads in May that I'll look forward to talking about in a future video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye. Bye.